individual. Please can I ask everyone to mute their microphones when not speaking? Thank you. We don't have any apologies for absence. So we'll move straight to item 2, declarations of interest. Are there any pecuniary or non-pecuniary interests to be declared? No? I have no chairman's announcements, so I will move on to our public open session, where we'll adjourn for a period of 15 minutes to allow members of the public to put any questions or to address the council pertaining to matters listed on our agenda. We have nobody in the room, nobody online. Excellent. We'll move on. Any members' questions? No? Okay. And so we will move on to minutes and recommendations of meetings. So if I can turn us to page 6 and page, anybody page 6, page 7? Okay. And then we will
move they be approved and that you sign the same, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Second that.
Yeah. And then any matters arising on page 6 or page 7? No. Thank you. So items for consideration, item 8, I'm really conscious that we've got a number of policies to review tonight. So I'd like to suggest we focus on queries or suggestions in the main part if we can. Any spelling or grammatical concerns, can I ask that we share with our HR manager before the end of the working week, if members don't mind, unless of course anything majorly urgent comes up. I'm just thinking in the interest of time, because we do have quite a lot of policies to work through. So if you're in agreement with that, we can move on to our disciplinary policy and procedure. Would you like to take it page by page, or would you like to review overall?
It's easier page by page.
Page by page. So I'm going to work off the one with the amends on showing, if that's the track changes on, if that's okay for everybody. So I'm starting on page 9. All good. Page 10. Page 11. Councillor Straw.
Thank you. Under 4, we've got A to P, and then we have the bit about any employee proven to be over the legal limit, as prescribed by the police. Would it be sent? I assume that's meant to be the drink drive limit, rather, because what is the legal limit for alcohol? Because I don't think there is a legal limit for alcohol apart from being intoxicated and incapable virtually. So I think it needs a bit of clarification. And as it's gross misconduct, it would fall and being dismissed without notice in any event. And plus the fact I think it should probably be Q, but I'm just not sure what the definition of the legal limit is.
That's a really good question. Can I please pass over to our clerk or HR manager for guidance?
I believe there was a legal limit on drinking and alcohol
in the workplace.
No, so it was worded as in if it was over limit when it was in terms of what it would be for driving.
So it was driving.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think Councillor Strong, what she's suggesting is we put in over the prescribed legal limit.
Yes, it's got to be there because legal limit is vague, and if we don't know what it's identified by.
Are you comfortable with
that? Yeah.
Amazing, thank you. And then to Councillor Strong's point is, should it be point Q? Because we've listed it A to P so far.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. That makes sense.
Shall we move your microphone?
Better. Okay. Anything else on page 11? Anyone? Page 12. 13, 14, 15, or 16. So apart from those 2 minor amends, are we happy to agree with disciplinary policy?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you very much.
An observation, if I
need-
may, Chairman.
Yeah.
I welcome the fact that we're not going to be reviewing it for 4 years unless absolutely necessary.
I love that. And the only other thing I would add is when I was reviewing the packs, I was reminded of a conversation we had a while ago about gender neutral pronouns. So I really can't remember where we landed on that conversation, but I'm sure there's some paperwork somewhere that I've seen lying around. Would it be possible to just try and find that and see where we landed, and then if there are amends, make sure that they're added in? Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, go for it.
Thank you. Sorry, just for my memory, are these policies delegated to personnel, or do they need to be recommendations to council to formally agree? I can't remember.
They've previously just been approved here, but.
Okay, I think that's probably right. I just wanted to double check. Thank you.
Thank you. So then we'll move on to our DBS policy. And again, I'll follow the track changes one if that's okay. So I'm going straight to page 27. Give you a moment. So any queries or concerns on page 27? Or 28? Councillor Strong?
Just a practical side, I note that we're taking away any reference to paper. I appreciate the desirability of reducing our paper storage. Is there a backup in the event of computer malfunction or otherwise in terms of records?
So everything's backed up through our IT company. So it goes onto like their cloud. So
Onto their
it's backed up
servers.
like that. Yeah.
That's fine. I think whether it's worth mentioning just the fact is that there is the backup there, and also as a reference that it will be backed up in a separate place.
Where are you looking, Councillor Strong, sorry? Under retention of documents?
Storage and access.
Oh, storage and access. So you just want to add something along on the councillor's HR drive?
And be appropriately backed up.
Are you comfortable? Is that required? Oh, is the queries, councillor Woodard?
No, it's
Separate, okay. Okay.
I'm personally not too fussed about that reference being in, but if others want it in there, I mean, I don't think this is particularly necessary, but if others want it in there, put it in.
Yeah, happy to add it in. It's just a couple of words. You okay with that?
Yep.
Yeah. Councillor Woodhead, then Councillor Knight.
I probably should know the answer to this myself, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is the only member of staff that requires a DBS presently the Orchard Community Centre coordinator, or do we believe there are others who require it? Because I mean, it's saying that there is a policy about DBS, but it's not actually relating it to particular roles or areas in the council. And obviously there is a cost associated with DBS checks. So I just would like a little bit more clarity about the necessity of that. And then I've got a follow-up question depending on what your answer is.
Yeah. So at the moment, it's just our facilities coordinator. It's been assessed as needing one because planning the Orchard Centre, there's children's parties and clubs. So that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we also had a conversation a little while back around, from an events perspective, around lost children's policy and lost vulnerable adults, whatever it might be. I'm wondering whether, in relation to that, whether any staff members would need DBS. But I mean, it may only be for a short period of time. But I don't know whether that's come into the thinking. It's obviously not in here, but it does relate to, people having those DBS checks. But it's just a thought.
Can I make a suggestion? It might be worth looking into whether that we think there's a requirement for that, whether it comes back to us as a policy or maybe as an operational one. But I think it's worth investigating what other councils do and whether there's perhaps at what level, how far do we go with it?
Yeah.
And what, if we're talking about events, you've then got essentially a lot of the public realm team attend those events. At what point, how far do you need to go? So my suggestion would be not everybody, but find out where we think it should be.
That's fine. Okay, thank you.
Before we go to Councillor Knight, Councillor Strong, did you have a point to make on that?
Just very much on that point. I think provided we've got the flexibility within the policy to take and carry out DBS checks when required, because like Councillor Woodhead, I was suddenly thinking about some of our events, particularly the Christmas lights type switch on, where there are lots of young children. It does strike me as though maybe our safeguarding person at the time probably would need DBS check. So perhaps that could be looked into and checked out in the future. I don't think we necessarily need to alter the policy because of it, but we need to make sure that we're carrying out the appropriate checks and got the appropriate registrations in place.
Yeah, and I read the policy to give us the freedom to do that. So yeah, agreed. Councillor Knight, thank you for your patience.
No, thank you. Yeah, I was just thinking about this topic a little bit and wondering, naming a specific role doesn't seem particularly flexible for a policy we expect to have for 4 years. And it might be more helpful to write down the criteria, which is essentially regular work with children or vulnerable adults. And very occasional events, one-offs, when you're not alone or unattended, probably not an issue, but regular access, certainly when you're alone, feels to me like it should be the criteria. The other point I wanted to make was around the access to this information. So it's going to, I think it's on page 28, it's going to be on the HR Secure Shared Drive. This proposal removes the reference to who has access, and I guess I was wondering who does have access, because clearly it can't just be one person, because one person could be on holiday or off sick. So it feels to me like we should state who has access to that file, and that's probably more important than where it is. It's who has access. It's that access control that we need to be stating, I think.
So it does say on there that it will be kept securely by the administration and HR manager, but that doesn't help with your point where it's just one person. So would it be better to have that? And I assume it would be yourself as the clerk?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
So would that?
So if it just stated the town clerk and the HR admin had access, that would seem good. Thank you.
Could I just make the point, picking up on Councillor Knight's point, perhaps the wording of the policy rather than highlighting a particular role, it also it mentions, or we amend the policy to reflect on people that are deemed to be requiring it, so that you've got a single line in there that then you can open it up then. And I think that then you then take out the element of not taking out the name of the Autism Community Centre, but making sure that the cost of the check is reimbursed, and that applies to everybody. So I'm not quite sure how the wording looks, but subject to that, I'm happy with everything else in there.
Are we happy with all the comments that have, oh, sorry, Councillor.
Sorry, I think very much on the same line as a sentence. Employees working with children and vulnerable adults may be required to have DBS checks carried out at the council's discretion.
Yeah. So with all those amends, are we happy for the HR manager to make those changes and be authorised to put this policy into practice rather than bringing it back again? You comfortable with that?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you very much. Then we go over to the overtime and toil policy. Just flick through. There are a lot tonight, aren't there? Page 34, please. Right, so page 34.
I'm taking it the only change to the fact that you can't, you're not forced to take a half day now. You can take whatever hours you want to, which seems to be a far less restrictive policy. So I'd support that. So subject to that, I personally can't see anything else needs to be commented on.
So nothing on 35 for anybody, or 36? No? That was easy. Okay, let's go. I know I spoke too soon. Let's go to page 41 and keep our fingers crossed. Okay, page 42, sorry. Or 43? Councillor Foster?
So request for temporary remote working has to go to 3 people. I mean,
where are you reading
it
that?
says it has to go to the employee's line manager, the admin HR manager, and the town clerk. So does that mean that the individual has to send it to all 3, or does it go to the line manager, and the line manager then? How does that work?
That is a good query. I read it as it goes to the line manager, and then just made the assumption that the line manager would share it with the HR manager and town clerk, but I fully appreciate the wording does not necessarily reinforce that assumption.
So I can make that clearer in that sentence.
Can I also ask at the same point then, it goes to the admin and HR manager and the town clerk, and the town clerk is the one that makes the decision. So it's not the line manager or the admin and HR manager, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Because I think we know that the remote working policy is more operationally led, but you're right, a bit of clarity there, just make sure that there's no room for misinterpretation in any way, right?
It's interesting that policy's got an addition, the addition of the word temporary in there, as opposed to permanent. Is there a reason that's particularly been highlighted in that section? Or requests for temporary remote working?
So my guess would be to do with flexible working requests, but is
Yeah.
that the right
Yeah.
assumption?
So,
Because that would come under something different.
well, my supplementary then is, what happens if someone asks for permanent remote working?
Yeah, it would be viewed in the same way. So we can clarify
But it would be
No,
formalised, so any temporary working requests would be formalised.
but what I mean is if a member of the team asks for permanent remote working, it's not specified in here because you've added the word temporary in. And I'm
I see what you mean.
So what if there's by not referencing permanent remote working, or by adding the word temporary, you're almost excluding the fact that permanent temporary remote working is possible.
How would you like to, because this will be the balance between random remote working and flexible working requests on a permanent basis, so.
Well, I could clarify both within this policy. So making it clear what the process is for both types of requests.
I think it would be helpful to either have the clarity or take the word temporary out. No, either or, because if we're only allowing temporary, then that's fine. But you need to make sure that permanent remote working isn't approved by the council currently within the policy, or you take as you said, Helen, take view each application on its merits, in which case you don't need the word temporary in there.
Councillor Woodhead.
Thank you. I agree with a lot of what Councillor Foster was saying, and I think giving the history around the temporary remote working, I think was a way of getting people back into the office after COVID, when we had lots of issues there and the office was closed. I just wanted a point of clarification really, in that further down on the eligibility part, it refers to the Flexible Working Act. Well, flexible working is different from remote working. They are two different things, because you can work flexibly by coming in late or going home early or whatever and still be in the office, whereas remote working is what it says on the tin. So I just think we need to be careful about not mixing the two things
That's why
together.
I think they need to be separate.
So I think I'd be happy with a little bit more, not clarity, because I understand it, but it's just making sure it's clear that there are different, like flexible working is a legal request, whereas remote working is not. And obviously they're two different things. So I just think we need a little bit more, making just clarity, I guess, in that, and what it is we're actually asking for.
Okay. Councillor Stormy, Councillor Knight.
Following on from that point, the heading that I think needs to be remote and flexible working policy.
Yeah.
And it also needs to be broken up. But on the question of temporary or permanent remote working, if one looks at page 44, it says making remote working applications. And then it says employees that wish to apply for remote working either permanently or on a temporary basis should they make their request. So later on, we are getting the reference to the permanent remote working. And personally, I don't feel that we can, as a council, be looking for permanent remote working, because that's taking away the whole point in many ways of working, because we could have a situation where people try and work remotely, and it may just be, I don't think it actually works in the council. So I'm concerned that we could have that permanent situation. Occasions for remote working may be appropriate. Say if someone had broken their leg, then it might be sensible for them to work remotely. But I think to have the option to have a permanent remote working is a dangerous path to be going down. I don't know what other members feel.
Councillor Knight?
Thank you. Colleagues have addressed a lot of this around sort of flexible working, remote working, hybrid working, what the legal rights are. I guess I'm thinking this is quite a complex policy, about 6 pages of it. Has it been reviewed by our HR advisors recently? And I wonder if it should be, or whether there's actually just a template we could go from, because I don't think we're especially unusual. But really, this policy just needs to cover the statutory, obligations that are on the council, and we might tweak it a bit. But I feel it. Maybe we could take some input on that from our HR advisor.
I think it's. I hear where you're coming from, Councillor Swan. I think it's a bit. I don't understand how we can say no here and now to fully remote flexible working if it comes to a flexible working request without fully considering the options from a legal standpoint. But maybe for now, there's something about, to Councillor Knight's point, reviewing the whole thing. Your point on the consistency of permanent or temporary across pages is exactly why you're the lawyer and in the room. But then maybe we could take it to our HR advisors.
My point was actually more on the remote working rather than the flexible working point. That was my specific concern there on the permanent remote working. But I do think it makes sense to have an outside party that specialises in this, looking at it, because whilst we've got expertise, and indeed your expertise is far greater than any of the rest of us, I believe, in this area, I do think it makes sense to have an outside view on that, just to make sure that we've get all the I's and T's dotted correctly at this time.
Absolutely. And I did mean, to your point, because somebody could request permanent remote working as a flexible request. Oh, that's a lot of words. Councillor Thomas.
I take it.
Oh, sorry, I didn't
That's
see.
fine.
I take it probably what we're going to do here is shelve this one and we'll come back to it, rather than keep talking about it.
Councillor Foster, very possibly.
Don't disagree. I'm going to say one thing. You can't, it just needs to make sure that it doesn't exclude the remote or the other. It needs to, and I think by doing it in 2 places, so essentially take it away and come back to it.
Yeah, are we happy with that? So is that a proposal to take it away, review it and bring it back next time?
Yeah, I think it's the external review is the key word there, not just take it away and review, but external.
Have the external review and be really clear on the differences and understanding between flexible and remote and what that means for us. Yes. Happy with that? Is there a proposal?
I'll second that.
And a seconder. Yeah, all in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. It's because I spoke too soon, I apologise. It is my fault entirely, never mind. Travel and subsistence on page 55, please. So, page 55. Councillor Foster?
To me, seems pretty straightforward. We're taking away the requirement to have any expenses pre-approved, which makes complete sense. If expenses are submitted onto the system, they either get approved or rejected by the individual's line manager. In the event, I'm guessing it doesn't specify here, but in the event that it's reviewed and that's deemed to be inappropriate, then the line manager is reviewed or is discussed with the town clerk. But for me, it's a sensible change to the policy. Can't see anything else that I would want to worry about, really.
Amazing. Anybody else? Page 56. Page 56. Yeah.
Formatting. I'm trying to follow it.
Yeah, I think once accept changes is done,
yes.
it becomes easier, doesn't it? Page 57. Oh, sorry, Councillor.
Before we move on, so looking at the new page 55, so is the employee's line manager the only person who has to approve a claim, and is there any limit? Because this suggests, as written, that someone's line manager, whoever that may be, is the only approver required, and I suspect that isn't the case.
On the system that we use, like our HR software system, they are the only person that can approve it. Well, other than me as the admin of the software. It's set up in the same way as it would be, for approving holiday. So it's set up just just in the same way as that.
So I guess I worry about a situation where, and the whole point of these policies is to deal with edge cases. I put in a claim, or a member of staff puts in a claim for £1,000. It's approved by their line manager. Then you see, so the policy says that's it. The employee sees it's been approved, so they think, great, I'm getting my money. Then you see the claim and think, well, hang on a minute, that's wrong. You can't claim for that. And you overrule that. This policy wouldn't allow for that. So is there some second, potentially, depending on the limit, for 50 quid you might not, but for 1,000 quid you might say this needs a higher level of approval, perhaps, I don't know.
So for example, like we've got the limits on page 58 for meals. Are you talking about for other categories, potentially?
Yeah, it's down to the delegated authority to an employee's line manager, really, isn't it?
Councillor Strong, before we ask.
Yes, I think the issue is that the controls that are there in place, because I agree with Councillor Knight, it does seem just limiting it to a line manager, it can go a little bit out of kilter because the payroll has to be approved. I don't know how, I'd imagine how does it work in comparison to overtime, where that presumably gets signed off by line managers and then approved by yourself as and the HR, but I think there should be some secondary check on the line manager approving it, because what one wouldn't wish, and it would never happen here, I'm sure, but if the line manager and an employee agreed that they would like to have a little bit more money, then theoretically that could go through. So I think there must be a check, whether it's from the HR manager or from the finance officer, responsible finance officer, that can just review and have an overview and check in case there's an anomalous claim.
Councillor Knight, can I let the HR manager, or would you like to?
I was just going to say that when the payroll's put together, it's put together by me, and then it's reviewed, and then it obviously goes to Nicola. So that's one way it could be checked at that point as well, or it is checked at that point anyway. But we could write that within the policy.
With respect, I think it just actually needs to be clarified, which I think what Councillor Knight was coming from, that there must be that safety net of a second approval before it's signed off. I think the implication that Councillor Knight was concerned about, and forgive me if I'm interpreted incorrectly, but the fact that one person can just sign off anything and then there's no check to block it in case there's something anomalous or an arithmetical error or something.
Well, indeed, and an employee could say, hang on a minute, this has been approved by my line manager in accordance with the policy, so what do you mean you're not paying it? It could be as simple as adding the responsible financial officer or the town clerk may review all expense claims and can, overrule the line manager's approval. That could be as simple as that.
I think that's actually a fair, and there's not a requirement to do so, but then that allows for the situation where it gets, although it might have been approved on the system, it can still be overruled if there's a reason to do so, subject to a payroll review or something else. So I think if you put that line in there, that covers it.
Councillor Woodhead?
I think that's right, and it gives that extra safeguard if there is perhaps some nefarious behaviour going on with certain staff. Or
I think it's more to suggest that perhaps if there's any anomaly for whatever reason, it could be a typo, it could be something that's been so. Gives that not a suggestion that anything like that would happen. It's more about if there's anything that's gone wrong for some reason, it's picked up. Then because it's been approved on the system doesn't automatically mean it's going to be paid, which I think is the line we're talking.
So can I just confirm the proposal is that we add a line that it's to be subject to approval of the RFO? The
town clerk or the responsible financial officer may review and refuse any expense claim.
Yeah, is everybody to accept the official proposal then, Councillor Knight?
Yes.
And then do we have it seconded? Thank you. And then all those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. And then just to check for the rest of the policy, if there's anything else on page 57 or page 58. Thank you very much. Is that all our policies? That's all our policies. Okay, so there are no items for information. So I'm going to move on to our public open session again, where we'll adjourn adjourn for another 15 minutes to allow members of the public to put any questions or to address the council in respect of any business. Anybody online? No, nobody's in the council, so I will move on. And now it's my turn, isn't it, to read? Sarah's trying to find it. Okay, so members of the town council will vote to enter an exempt session due to the confidential nature of the business to be transacted, which includes information relating to the financial affairs of the authority and/or ongoing negotiations. If members resolve to proceed into the exempt session, members of the public and press will be excluded from the meeting under section 1.2 of the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960, and live streaming of the meeting will be terminated. I ask if we can move.